Let's see what we got here. All right. Shalom, Israel. Most High in Christ, blessed to you all. Captain Zakar here. Today, IUIC 4 chapters. We are going to go over Exodus 22 through 25. All right. We'll precept as we go. I'll teach as we go as much as possible. If you got questions, write them to IUIC classrooms in a message form, and we captains will come back and answer them as they are received in the message inbox. That's how I run my IUIC 4 chapters, all right? Disclaimer, sisters, this is church, so I do not need you sidebar conversation for the next hour and some change on the side. Just listen, and I'm going to try to explain every scripture as we go. If I ask a question, I'm speaking to you brothers, all right? All right, here we go. So let's get into it here. We're going Exodus 22 through 25, and I'll precept as I go. A lot of Exodus 22 is straightforward, with this being the law. A lot of it is straightforward. Some of the words may confuse you, but that is why we are here, to get some understanding. So make sure if you do have your Bible, get you a pen so you can kind of precept along as we go, okay? All right, so let's start here. Exodus 22. Exodus 22 is a chapter, is a civil law chapter. It has a few other things in it, but it basically deals with civil law. of how to pay back something that is owed in restitution. Okay, so let's get into it here. So Exodus 22 verse 1. If a man shall steal an ox or sheep and kill it or sell it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. Now, these laws still apply, okay, but they're just in different forms. Some of them are in suspension due to captivity, due to Christ taking some of them away. But though there are some laws that we can still apply. Quick precept, Matthew 5:17, just so we get our mind right going into reading this whole 4 chapters. Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 on down. It says here, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. So he did not come to do away with the law. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. So what we read here in Exodus 22 and 1, that law still does apply. We in a different situation of where we don't have oxen and sheep to restore, but if something is stolen from you from a brother or a sister in the body, they have to apply the law that is written here. All right. If a man, back to Exodus 22 and 1, let me write this. All right, Exodus 22 and 1 on down. It says, if a man shall steal an ox or sheep or kill it or sell it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. So that still apply. Don't be stealing stuff. If a thief be found breaking up and be smitten that he died, there shall no blood be shed for him. Now, it confuses a lot of people. That just means breaking in. Okay, if a thief be found breaking in and be smitten that he died, why did he die from breaking in? That's called what you call today self-defense, right? He entered into your home and you defended yourself, so, and they died, that is self-defense, okay? There shall be no blood shed for him. When did we shed blood? What was the time for blood to be shed? It was during judgment. Okay, it was during judgment that blood was to be shed. So when you see it says there shall no blood be shed for him, I mean, there's no judgment behind it. The judgment's been already passed. Break it in, put to death. The judgment's there, so it's over with. Okay. Verse 3, if the sun be risen upon him, there shall be blood shed for him. That means there shall be a judgment, because it hasn't changed. It's talking about a thief breaking in. All right. So that thief, let me fix this here. Make it a little better. There we go. So that thief breaking in, and the sun be risen upon him, he got away. There shall be blood shed for him, meaning there shall be a judgment. And then the next part tells you the judgment for that thief. Okay, it says, if the sun be risen upon him, there shall be blood shed for him, for he should make full restitution. If he have nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. All right, let me see something here. Let's see. Precept just popped in my head. Let me find it here. It may be a little later on in Exodus, but let's see. 1 second, y'all. Just popped in my head to give you a little understanding of that blood be shed for him, which is going into judgment. Let's see. All right, it'll come to me here. Yeah, I'll find it. All right, moving on here. So, with verse 3 again, if the sun be risen upon him, there shall be blood shed for him, meaning judgment. Then it gives the judgment, for he shall make full restitution. If he have nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. Sold for his theft, meaning that he has to work off the amount that was paid, that was stolen. So the amount of that ox or that sheep, the price of it, he has to work off that amount of that he stole. All right, that's what it means, sold for his theft, not sold into slavery, just sold, meaning work servitude until he pays off the debt of what he stole. Verse 4, if the theft be certainly found in his hand alive, whether it be ox or ass or sheep, he shall restore double. So now it's getting more into the verse 3 is getting into the more of the judgments for that person that stole. All right. So if he caught him, but he had already got rid of what he stole in verse 3, now he got to pay off that of what he stole, the amount of it. Verse 4, if he's found and it's in his hand, he got to restore double of what he stole. All right. Verse 5, if a man shall cause a field or vineyard to be eaten, and shall put in his beast, and shall feed in another man's field of the beast of his of the best of his own field and of the best of his own vineyard, shall he make restitution. Self-explanatory. I'm gonna just skip past the stuff that is self-explanatory. All right. If fire break out and catch in thorns, so that the sticks of corn or the standing corn or the field be consumed therewith, he that kindled the fire shall surely make restitution. If a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to keep, and it be stolen out of the man's house, if the thief be found, let him pay double. If the thief be not found, then the master of the house shall be brought unto the judges, to see whether he have put his hand unto his neighbor's goods. So if he was a part of the scheme or the plan to deceive the original owner out of his goods, you have to bring him before the judges. Right? That's where the Urim and Thummim came into play. All right. Let's see here, verse 9. So we're in Exodus 23, 22 and 9, for those that might not know. All right, Exodus 22 and 9. For all manner of trespass, whether it be for ox or ass, for sheep or for raiment, or for any manner of lost thing which another challengeth to be his, the cause of both parties shall come before the judges, and whom the judges shall condemn, he shall pay double unto his neighbor. Verse 10, if a man deliver unto his neighbor an ass or an ox or a sheep or any beast to keep, and it die or be hurt or driven away, no man seeing it, then shall an oath of the Lord be between them both, that he have not put his hand unto his neighbor's goods, and the owner of it shall accept thereof, and he shall not make it good. Now, this goes back to, refresh your screen, sis. Now this goes back to Hebrews. Paul used this as an example in the book of Hebrews. Let's go to it real quick, just so you know where he pulls it from in the book of Hebrews. All right. Hebrews chapter 6. Let's see what we get here. We're coming back. Hebrews chapter 6, and it's verse 16. All right. Hebrews 6:16 says here, for man verily swear by the greater, and an oath for confirmation is to them an end of all strife. So Paul is using the law in Exodus 22 and 11 as an example for how God is unchangeable. You read verse 17 and 18, it says, wherein God willing more abundantly to show unto the heirs of promise, Israel, us, the immutability of his counsel. Immutability means unchangeable, unchangeable of his counsel, confirmed it by an oath, that by two immutable things, which was impossible for God to lie. That's one of them. The other one is for God to repent, to take back after it's went out of his mouth, after he's passed the judgment, basically. We might have a strong consolation who have refused to lay hold upon the hope set before us. So Paul is using the civil law in Exodus 22 and 11 to show how God does not change. The same way that when this law is applied, is the end, it's over. All right, so let's go back to it. Exodus 22 and 11. Exodus 22 and 11 says, then shall an oath of the Lord be between them both. Basically, to put it in layman's terms today, is almost like they swearing, okay? That he have not put his hand unto his neighbor's goods, and the owner of it shall accept thereof, and he shall not make it good. It's over. Once that oath between both of them, he promises it. Everything you love. I did not take the stuff. I did not set you up. This is going back to verse 7. Something was stolen from a man's house. I didn't take it. I didn't have you set up. I don't know where it is. I don't know who took it. That's the end of it. It's not to be spoken of again. So that's going into sacrifice further down the line. All right. Verse 12 now. Exodus 22 and verse 12. All right. It says here, and if it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution unto the owner thereof. If it be torn in pieces, then let him bring it for witness, and he shall not make good that which was torn. And if a man borrow aught, which means anything, of his neighbor, and it be hurt or die, the owner thereof being not with it, he shall surely make it good. You owe him. All right, you owe him. He let you use it. You wasn't there, and it get messed up. You owe the man. You just can't say, "Oh well." You owe him. All right. Verse 15. But if the owner thereof be with it, he shall not make it good. If he be an hired thing, it came for his hire. Understandable. You came to plow somebody's field for 10 shekels. You brought your own donkey and your plowing stuff. Your donkey breaks his leg, and you got to put it out of his misery. You can't expect the owner to pay for your bad, faulty equipment. All right. Same thing like if you got a lawn and a business, a lawnmower, something like that. The owner of the property is not liable for your own equipment breaking down. That's you. All right. That's basically what they're saying. All right. Verse 16. Moving on. Getting to some good stuff now. And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed and lie with her, so he's a nigga, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. He's a Negro and she's a nigga for laying down and being enticed and not going through the proper channels of marriage. All right. Proper channels of marriage during these times was what? The father would marry off the daughter. Let's get a precept for that in Sirach. Let's get the precept for it in Sirach. All right. Here we go. Let's see what we got here. Here we go. Sirach chapter 7 and verse 25. We're dealing with Exodus 22:16, getting a little understanding of how marriage is supposed to go about, all right? A Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, for you newer brothers and sisters in the Apocrypha, Ecclesiasticus chapter 7, verse 25. Marry thy daughter. Hold on, let me write this down for y'all. Marry thy daughter, and so shalt thou have performed a weighty matter, meaning that it was a major thing, depending on who you married your daughter to, because it was you was giving your daughter over to this man for the rest of her life, and you was about to be out of all decision making and everything for her. You was no longer watching over her, so it was a weighty matter. Marry thy daughter, and so shalt thou have performed a weighty matter, but give her to a man of understanding. So, understanding meaning keeping of the commandments. He's a wise man. So that's how marriage was supposed to be played out in our own land, for a father to for a daughter to go from her father's house to her husband's house with the blessing of the father, and him marrying his daughter off to a suitable man. I know you see it a lot of times in old English movies and things of that nature. That didn't come out of thin air. They got it from somewhere. Okay, they got it from our good book where we marry off the daughter. So going back to Exodus chapter 22 and verse 16. It says, and if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed, he didn't go through the proper channels of speaking to the father, proving all of those things, and lie with her, she was simple and she laid down with him, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. He had to sign the papers. Verse 17, if her father utterly refuse, okay, if her father utterly refused, this is going back to verse 16. Don't completely have a different thought about what's going on now. Still talking about enticing, laying with the daughter. He got to endow her. If her father utterly refused, meaning he does not agree with it, he's pissed, he don't know you, he don't like you, you backdoor marriage ass brother. If her father utterly refused to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. The man has to. Now this is it's an example of this back in Genesis too. Right? Let's get that in Genesis, where we got an example of it wasn't supposed to go down, but the dowry still had to be paid. Let's get that. Genesis 36. So is it 36 or 34? Let me see. Genesis 34 with Dinah, right? We're going to get straight to the point. We all know that Dinah walking out the house somewhere she ain't supposed to be, right? Should have been in the house, minding the house, but she went outside and got snatched up by a heathen, by a Hamite. Exodus chapter 34. Let's start at verse 8. All right. Genesis 34. Did I say Exodus? Genesis chapter 34, and let's read verse 8 on down. All right. It says, and Hamor communed with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give her him to wife. Now, Jacob knew that we was not supposed to be mingling with the heathen. Okay, so this is why Hamor, Shechem's father, is begging Jacob for his daughter. Verse 9, and make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. And ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein. And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me, I will give. So he already understands that this was not supposed to take place. These are the Hebrews, the Shemites. We are Hamites. We do not marry with each other. So he's saying, whatever you want, whatever you need, I'll give it to you. This is what we read back in Exodus 22, verse 17. He shall surely give the dowry if her father utterly refuse. Verse 11, and Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me, I will give. Here's the point, verse 12. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. Verse 12, what is he saying? Whatever the amount is, you name it, I'll give it to you. I'll pay whatever the dowry is. All right, that's what he's offering. Now we know that the dowry amongst us is what? Let's go to this. Let's go to Deuteronomy, right? And I think it's, let's see here, 22. Shooting from the hip here. Yep, let's get that. Deuteronomy chapter 22, and let's see where I want to start. Give me a second here, y'all. Might be in the same. No, okay. Okay, here we go. Verse 19. Let's get straight to the point right here. 17. I'm gonna start at verse 17 through 19. All right. Here we go. It says Deuteronomy 22, verse 17. And lo, he hath given occasions of speech against her, saying, I found not thy daughter a maid. She was not untouched. And yet these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity, the tokens of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. So it was a cloth laid up under the woman in the bedchamber, and then afterwards they spread the cloth from the Heimlich being broken. That was the proof that she had not been touched. All right, the father kept those as proof. Moving on here, verse 18. And the elders of that city shall take that man and chastise him, and they shall immerse him in 100 shekels of silver, and give them unto the father of the damsel, because he hath brought up an evil name upon a virgin of Israel. So that was if you spoke evil of the daughter. Trying to put her away for any uncleanness, like it speaks about in the book of Matthew 19. You had, if that you was found lying, you had to pay 100 shekels of silver. Let me see. Now let's jump over here to verse 28 and 29. Right? Let's jump over to 28 and 29 to show you what that dowry was normally of what had to be paid. First, Deuteronomy 22, 28. If a man find a damsel, this is saying the same thing as Exodus 22. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, marriable age, which is not betrothed, not promised. Her father has not promised to marry her to another man, like we read in Sirach chapter 7, and lay hold on her. That means that goes back to entice. Lay hold on her is the same thing as entice. All right. I'm gonna put that up here. Lay hold on her equals entice, and lie with her, and they be found. Verse 29, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver. So now we see the dowry payment for going about the wrong way. It was 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he hath humbled her. He may not put her away all his days. So the dowry was 50 shekels for going about it wrong. If you then try to bring up an evil name of the sister and the tokens of virginity, the sheep was pulled out in front of the city, and you was found a liar, you had to double that and give 100 shekels of silver, and you got your ass beat. We didn't play back in the day, man. It's coming. It's coming again. Soon enough when the Lord returns. But that ain't going down. And all the people are gonna be righteous. So we're gonna have ain't gonna be no backdoor marriages in the kingdom. All right. Going back now to Exodus. Let's move on here. We got more chapters to read here. Exodus chapter 22, we're going to read verse 17 on down. It says, if her father utterly refused to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. He had to pay that 50 shekels of silver. He was forced to. Verse 18, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Witch goes into horoscopes and things of that nature. All right. And palm readings, all of that is a witch. Verse 19, whosoever lieth with a beast shall surely be put to death. I forget the term for that, animal, whatever. Bestiality. Bestiality. Verse 20, he that sacrificeth unto any god save unto the Lord only, he shall be utterly destroyed. Thou shalt neither vex a stranger nor oppress him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. All right. Now that's twofold. It's a twofold scripture. First and foremost, is pertaining to us when it comes to your brother being from a different area of a land. Right. Now we read that in Leviticus real quick so we can understand who that's talking about. Leviticus chapter 25, right? And let's go to verse 35. This is what shall not oppress a stranger is talking about your brother, me and you, our people, first and foremost, all right? Leviticus chapter, what is this, 25, and we're going to start at verse 35, all right? On down. It says, and if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him, help him out. Yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, he's coming from one area to another, right? I might be tribe of Judah, and I might have a brother, maybe a brother-in-law that is from the tribe of Manasseh through marriage to my sister, right? So I'm in Judah. He lives up in half tribe of Manasseh. Stuff happened to him up there, so he has to sojourn. He has to travel. Sojourner means travel. Travel down and come live with me for a while. Me and his sister. Okay. It says, yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Take thou no usury of him or increase, but fear thy God, that thy brother may live with thee. Thou shalt not give him thy money upon usury, nor lend him thy victuals for increase. Going back to Exodus now. So now we understand. Exodus 22. That stranger is your brother. All right. And we'll get some more precepts on that later to make it even more clear. Going back now to Exodus 22, and we're going to pick up at verse 21. Thou shalt neither vex a stranger nor oppress him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. All right, that's us dealing with your brothers first and foremost. Verse 22, ye shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If thou afflict them in any wise, and they cry at all unto me, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath shall wax hot, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. Whoosh. The Lord ain't playing. Don't mistreat those that are less fortunate, that are in tough situations as it already is. Don't make their life no more harder than it already is. A wife without a husband is already hard enough, and a son or a daughter already without a father is a hard enough life. Don't make it harder, the Lord says. He'll meet you with the sword. Verse 25, if thou lend money to any of my people that is poor by thee, thou shalt not be to him as an usurer. We just read that in Leviticus 25. And neither shalt thou lay upon him usury. Usury means interest. Okay? Usury means interest. So you can't charge your brother and sister interest. They give you 20, you can't give me 22.50 back. Give me $25. I give you $25. I want $40 back, a little bit more off the top. Repay me some. God says you cannot do that to your brother or sister. All right? Whatever you lend them, that is what they owe you back. Nothing more, nothing less. All right? Verse 26. If thou at all take thy neighbor's raiment to pledge, clothes, thou shalt deliver it unto him by that the sun goeth down, for that is his covering only. It is his raiment for his skin, wherein shall he sleep. So it's letting you know that with the stuff that we would wear around, tunics and things of that nature, we would use those also as sleeping garments to keep us warm at night, especially if you were poor. Right? You would use the clothes that you wear to keep you warm at night. Okay? Because you understand what we read in here, a well-off person is not going to have to work for you. He's not going to be in a poor state where he has to work for you if he's well off. This is talking about those people that are less fortunate, that need help, that are just getting by, and they extend their services for money. So they would give what's most valuable to them, which would be like their tunic, their overcoat, for you to hold while they worked for you, because that was very valuable to them. All right, back in verse 26. If thou at all take thy neighbor's raiment to pledge, thou shalt deliver it unto him by that the sun goeth down, for that is his covering only. It is his raiment for his skin, wherein shall he sleep? And it shall come to pass, when he crieth unto me, that I will hear, for I am gracious. Verse 28, thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. Thou shalt not revile the gods means hate. That's hate your leaders. Speak evil about or to your leaders. Thou shalt not revile the gods. That's what that means. Okay. Here's precepts to help you understand why it says gods there. Where we go for that? Psalms 82, right? Let's go to Psalms chapter 82, and let's read verse 5 and 5 on down. Yeah, let's read 5 on down. Psalm 82, and let's read. You know what? I'm gonna start hitting the daggone period. It says here, they know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. That's talking about us. And we walk on in sin. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. Verse 6, I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. But ye shall die like man and fall like one of the princes. So you read where God refers to us as gods, powers, right? So going back to, you got Exodus 22, thou shalt not revile the gods, meaning the leaders that are over you. Don't speak evil of them like a lot of people do. A lot of y'all do in your minds. Nor curse the ruler of thy people. Precept for that, to give you an example, is in the book of Acts, when Paul was talking, using wisdom to those that were over him. Acts chapter 23. I will read 1 through 5 real quick. All right. It says here, and Paul, earnestly beholding the council, said, men and brethren, I have lived in all good conscience before God unto this day. And the high priest Ananias commanded them that stood by him to smite him on the mouth. Then said Paul unto him, God shall smite thee, thou whited wall. For sittest thou to judge me after the law, and commandest me to be smitten contrary to the law? And they that stood by said, revilest thou God's high priest? Exactly what we read in Exodus. Revilest thou God's high priest? You have to read back to understand what he has said, okay? Or you can do it on your own time. But revilest thou God's high priest? Then said Paul, I wist not, brethren, for it is written, thou shalt not speak evil of the ruler of thy people. You don't have that precept down in Exodus chapter 22, verse 28. Make sure you have that precept. Acts 23, 1 through 5, with the point being in verse 5. It says that he was the high priest, for it is written, thou shalt not speak evil of the ruler of thy people. Okay, so now we're going back now to Exodus chapter 22, and we're back in verse 28. All right, Exodus 22, 28. It says, thou shalt not revile, speak evil of the gods, the rulers of you that are over you, nor curse the ruler of thy people. Verse 29, thou shalt not delay to offer the first of thy ripe fruits and of thy liquors, the firstborn of thy sons thou shalt give unto me. You gave them to the Lord, the first of your sons that opened a matrix, and you redeemed those back. The priest gave those back to you. You gave them some shekels, they give you your kids back. All right, but they was consecrated unto the Lord. Verse 30, likewise shalt thou do with thine oxen and with thy sheep. 7 days it shall be with his dam. On the 8th day thou shalt give it me. And ye shall be holy man unto me. Neither shall ye eat any flesh that is torn of beast in the field. Ye shall cast it to the dogs. Now there's a precept for that in Deuteronomy. It also says that it's good to double up on this stuff. That talks about not eating the food that was torn, right? Go to Deuteronomy chapter 14. You always have to understand the context of the law when it's written, because sometimes it can be talking about us, and sometimes it can literally be talking about the stranger. Okay, so Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 21. It says here, Ye shall not eat of anything that dieth of itself. Thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is in thy gates. That stranger is who? Those are the natural born strangers, not your brothers and sisters, right? Because the law applies to us first and foremost. So you can't read the law pertaining and have a single mindedness of it and then forget about the next brother or sister to you. No, the law was for all Israel and applied to all Israel. So you see a word like stranger, you understand, okay, that's talking about the other strangers. Okay, I understand that now in comparison to the law. It says, ye shall not eat of anything that dieth of itself. Thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is in thy gates, that he may eat it, or thou mayest sell it unto an alien. Another word for stranger, alien, foreigner, another nation. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. A lot of people always wondering what does that mean? See the kid in his mother's milk. That goes back to Exodus chapter 22 and verse 30. All right, kid. Here we go. A goat. It says, likewise shalt thou do with thine oxen and with thy sheep. 7 days it shall be with his dam, which is his mother. On the 8th day thou shalt give it me. So the Lord didn't want it put in that. It was too young to, as soon as it pop out, you cooking it. No, Lord, 7 days, right? 7 days. Yeah, that's fine, Baruch. That's fine. Um, so you had to have it, had to be out of a certain time, out of away from his mother. Okay, 7 days couldn't be, and you had to take it to the priest, right? Now we're back in Exodus chapter 22, verse 31. Now this is going to say the same thing we just read in Deuteronomy 14, right? It says, and ye shall be holy men unto me, neither shall ye eat any flesh that is torn of beast in the field. Ye shall cast it to the dogs. That's twofold. What is God saying? Give it to the strangers. Cast that thing to the aliens, the other nations. Cast that to them. You shall not eat it because you're a holy people. All right. So when you see it, that dogs, we understand is talking about the strangers of other nations, the foreigners, the aliens. Give that stuff to them. We shouldn't eat it. All right, moving on here. Exodus chapter 23. Okay, these are two. I like these two good. These are two good ones right here. Exodus 23. It says, thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. Basically, thou shalt not lie. Is what the Lord is saying. Right? You didn't see it. Don't make up no story about some stuff like you was there. Keep your mouth shut. Verse 2. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. So let's start with the top part of that. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 4. And let's start at verse 14. All right, here we go. Proverbs chapter 4. We're going to read 14 through 17. It says, enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil man. Avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it, and pass away. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away, unless they cause some to fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness, and drink the wine of violence. A lot of our young men in today's world, lives are ending very shortly, all because they follow a multitude to do evil and not understanding the wisdom of God, like we read right here in Proverbs 4 and 14. Let's see here. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 19, verse 2. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 2. It says here, also that the soul be without knowledge, it is not good. Knowledge is what? The laws of God. It's not good to be without the laws of God. And he that hasteth with his feet sinneth. Hasteth with his feet to do what? Run to evil, like it says in Exodus 23 and 2. He follows a multitude to evil. You are in the midst of sin. So all of us used to be in high school and middle school, and we all heard fight, fight, fight. We was all in the midst of sin. We was all wrong, is what God is saying. Let me see what else I got here. I got another precept. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 1. Proverbs chapter 1. Let's start at verse 10. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 10. My son, if sinners entice thee, that's what we just read about, those that follow a multitude to do evil. If those sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood, let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us. Agree with us. Make a pact with us, is what it's saying. Let us all have one purse. Here's the response. Verse 15. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path, for their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Exactly. This is expounding on Exodus 23 and 2. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. Let's see. I might have one more precept here. Let me see what I got. Then we'll get to the second half of that scripture. Well, let's see. Yep, Isaiah chapter 59. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 59. And let's read verse 7. Let's read 6 and 7. Isaiah 59, 6 and 7. It says, their webs, it's talking about sinners when you read verse 1. Their webs shall not become garments, neither shall they cover themselves with their works. Their works are works of iniquity, and the act of violence is in their hands. Their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed innocent blood. Their thoughts are thoughts of iniquity. Wasting and destruction are in their paths. All right, going back to Exodus 23. So I hope you got those few precepts that we just came out. That's expounding on thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. Now, dealing with the next part of it, it says, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. What is that talking about? That means wrestle after the judgment's been passed. You are now speaking out against it to sway people's opinion of the judgment of the rulers that was passed. That's what that's talking about. Neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline. So the judgment is given, and you speak against it to sway people's thoughts in a different direction. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to judgment, who does it come from? It comes from the Most High, right? Go to Deuteronomy chapter 1. Let's show you that real quick. We'll get straight to the point. Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 17. It says, ye shall not respect persons in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. Ye shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is God's. And the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it. It's talking about whoever is set up in leadership, right? Who's the head man. But at the end of the day, what is it? The judgment is God's. So going back to Exodus chapter 23 and verse 2, thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. Once the judgment has been given by the leaders, which came from God, shut up about it. It's over. Don't sway people's judgment because you are actually going against God. So when that Romans 16 and 17 is put out in your congregations for you to follow, you need to follow it because the judgment is ultimately coming from God. All right. Moving on here. Exodus 23, verse 3. Neither shalt thou countenance a poor man in his cause. Let's see. What is that going into? That's going into judgment. We're still dealing with judgment here. Countenance a poor man in his cause, meaning how you shouldn't be a respecter of person based on because the man's poor. If he brings a matter against a rich man, don't look down on him that he's automatically wrong because he's poor, right? It says that back in Deuteronomy 1, 16 and 17. Let's go back to it. Deuteronomy chapter 1, we're going to read verse 16. And it mentions this in other places too, but I got my hand right here. It says, and I charged your judges at that time, saying, hear the causes between your brethren, and judge righteously between every man and his brother and the stranger that is with him. So no matter whether they poor or whether they rich. And it explains it a little more in verse 17. Ye shall not respect persons, show partiality in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great, the rich as well as the poor. Now we live in a corrupt system here in Babylon the Great, where depending on how much money you can get, depends on how innocent or guilty you can get. How much of a lawyer you can afford depends if you can beat the case or not. That stuff didn't matter when it comes to our. That's why our law is so holy and righteous. Because all that lawyer stuff didn't make a difference. It was either you are right or you was wrong, whether you was poor or whether you was rich. And what happened with the Pharisees? They learned the ways of those heathens, and they began to do that. That's in the book of James chapter 1. We don't have time. We're moving on. Going back now to Exodus chapter 23, verse 4. Exodus 23, verse 4. Dion McLean. You have to search back through the IUIC classrooms. There's a lot of them on there. You'll see it titled, and you can see the past readings. It's every Wednesday, so just count from this Wednesday, and then 7 days back, you should land on this, another one of these teachings, all right? Exodus 23 and 4, it says here, if thou meet thy enemy's ox or his ass going astray, thou shalt surely bring it back to him again. If thou see the ass of him that hateth thee, lying under his burden, and wouldest forbear to help him, thou shalt surely help him. Now, I'm going to show you here a precept. Now, we usually read precepts 20, verse 22 through 24 to show the difference of the enemy, right? I'm going to show you that your enemy and that one that hates you is speaking about your brother. All right. Go to Deuteronomy 22. Let's read verse 1 through 4 to show you that that enemy is not any. It ain't talking about love the other nations and love your enemies like they have misconstrued in Matthew 5:44. This is talking about your brother, your sister. It's going to prove it. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 1. It says, thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or his sheep go astray. Make sure you write that down for back in Exodus 23, verse 4 and 5. The precept for that is Deuteronomy 22, 1 through 4, shows that this enemy is speaking of doing good to, that enemy that might hate you, that you still need to help and love, is your brother. All right. It says back in Exodus 22, Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 1, thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or his sheep go astray, and hide thyself from them. Thou shalt in any case, no matter how you feel, bring them again unto thy brother. And if thy brother be not nigh unto thee, or if thou know him not, then thou shalt bring it unto thy own house. And it shall be with thee until thy brother seek after it, and thou shalt restore it to him again. I like verse 2 because it says you don't even have to know him. He's still your brother. It ain't just your brother you grew up with, your sister you grew up with in the house. Your brother is your people. Your sister is your people. God said, even if you don't even know him, hold on to it until they come back around your way searching for it again. I'm going to read it again, verse 2. That's Black Lives Matter right there. Verse 2, and if thy brother be not nigh unto thee, or if thou know him not, then thou shalt bring it unto thine own house, and it shall be with thee until thy brother seek after it, and thou shalt restore it to him again. If any manner, in like manner, shalt thou do with his ass, and so shalt thou do with his raiment, and with all lost thing of thy brothers, which he hath lost, and thou hast found, shalt thou do likewise. Thou mayest not hide thyself. Verse 4, thou shalt not see thy brother's ass or his ox fall down by the way, and hide thyself from them. Thou shalt surely help him to lift them up again. Let's go back. Let's go back to Exodus now. Exodus chapter 23, verse 4 and 5. So now you got another precept to add to go along with what? Matthew 5 and 44, where Christianity misuses it. Now you go to Exodus 23 and 4 and 5. You got Deuteronomy 22 in your hip pocket, 1 through 4. You got Leviticus 19, 17 and 18. Right? If in case they don't understand it, Deuteronomy, which is the second law, the Deuteronomy, the second law is what that means. It speaks plain to you if you don't understand. Back in Exodus 23, verse 4. If thou meet thy enemy's ox or his ass going astray, thou shalt surely bring it back to him again. If thou see the ass of him that hateth thee lying under his burden, and wouldest forbear to help him, thou shalt surely help with him. That enemy, that one that hates you, that's your brother. That's your people of your own nation, not nobody else. Easy to be understood. All right, verse 6. Thou shalt not rest the judgment of thy poor in his cause. Verse 6 is explaining verse 3 again in case you didn't catch it. All right. Verse 6 is the same thing as verse 3. Don't be partial in judgment is what that's saying. Thou shalt not rest the judgment of thy poor in his cause. Keep thee far from a false matter, and the innocent and righteous slay thou not, for I will not justify the wicked. All right. Verse 8. And thou shalt take no gift, the gift blindeth the wise, and perverteth the words of the righteous. Many precepts on that, huh? I ain't got enough time to go through that, right? So basically, don't take a bribe when it comes to judgment, right? Be upright and honest. Verse 9, also thou shalt not oppress a stranger, for ye know the heart of a stranger, seeing ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. Who's that talking about? Us. And 6 years thou shalt sow thy land, and shalt gather in the fruits thereof. But the 7th year thou shalt let it rest and lie still, that the poor of thy people may eat, and what they leave the beast of the field shall eat in like manner. Thou shalt deal with thy vineyard and with thy olive yard. That's mercy from the Lord right there. All right. The 7th year, he fed the homeless. Right. That's going back into the year of what? The year of Jubilee ties into that also. Right. Every 7 years, the land rests, gets to that 49th year and whatnot, into the 50th year, you don't do any plowing to the land. We'll read about that later. Verse 12, 6 days shalt thou do thy work, and on the 7th day thou shalt rest, that thine ox and thy ass may rest, and the son of thy handmaid and the stranger may be refreshed. Stranger here, you might have another nation working for you, right? Let them be refreshed. That's why the whole world, when we come back into power, when the Lord sets us back up to rule over the countries under him, all nations are going to kick and prick at it at first. But once these laws start getting applied, they're going to be extremely happy that the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man is back ruling the earth. It would be righteousness reigning over the earth like they have never seen before. They'll get rest on the 7th day. Them 6 days gonna be double hard. I'm tell you that right now. The Lord spared me getting to the kingdom. Them 6 days is gonna be hell on earth for all of them. But that 7th day, they will get their due rest according to the law. But the Sabbath day is that we all may be refreshed. What? Spiritually and physically. Okay. Moving on here, verse 13. Now, I want you to pay attention to verse 13, because this is a scripture that a lot of people get confused, not quite understanding the different ways that the Lord will say something over and over again, and he'll say it in different ways of what he means, in case you didn't understand it the first time. Okay. So a lot of people get caught up on the name, right? They caught up on the name. You understand this once you read the law so many times, certain things, the Lord will reveal different things to you the more and more and more you read and meditate on his law. Okay. Here's verse 13. And in all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth. So people read that, take it for face value. See, we've been precepting throughout all of the law and Proverbs, he gives understanding on what certain things mean and expounding on those, right? So the same thing with this. Here's the first precept to understand that it's not talking about saying a different God's name, not Buddha, um, Allah, or Krishna. Like I can't say those names. It's not speaking about that. Here's the precept to help you out. Let's go to Matthew chapter 12. Is what you all, whenever somebody get into the name and the multiple wives things, the first thing you do is go to Christ and you cut them. You cut the daggone floor out from underneath of them, and then you start building them back up after that. All right, because Christ is the King. Let's go to Matthew chapter 12, and let's read verse 25 through 27. Yep, let's read that. So this is, you cut them down. Matthew chapter 12, verse 25. And Jesus knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? Here's the point. And if I, by Beelzebub was who? The chief Satan, Lord of the Flies. And if I, by Beelzebub, cast out devils, by whom do your children cast them out? Therefore they shall be your judges. So we got Christ mentioning the name of another God. Let me see something here real quick. Am I able? Is it going to let me do this? No. Okay. All right, I was trying to pull it up, but you know, it done changed up Facebook so daggone much now. It's impossible to know how to use. But Beelzebub, you look it up. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. We got some time. They got an anime of Beelzebub. Okay, I'm gonna read it real quick. Beelzebub, or Beelzebub, is a name derived from a Philistine god. A Philistine god, a Hamite god, formerly worshipped in Ekron. Ekron was a city along the coast in Israel, and later adopted by some Abrahamic religions as a major demon. The name Beelzebub is associated with the Canaanite god Baal. So we got Christ in Matthew 12:27 mentioning another God. So, no, it's fine. Oh, you know what? I got you. I got you, Baruch. Here we go. I'll post it. There we go. So Christ mentioning that, we all know that Christ did what? Christ did no sin. So obviously Exodus 23 does not mean what it means. Let's go back. Let's go back. Exodus 23 and 13. So now we understand make no mention of other gods does not mean you cannot say Buddha, Krishna, Ra, Allah. Is not talking about that, okay? At all. Okay, so let's see, what does it mean? We're going to jump around in this chapter here, and then we're going to come back to this verse. So in this chapter alone, he mentions it 3 different times of not making mention of other gods in different ways of what he means. So let's read verse 13 again so we can understand it. It says, and in all things that I have said unto you, and then we'll get precepts and other things to understand completely what it means. And in all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth. So obviously it's not talking about the name of another God, because Christ did it and he did no sin, right? So let's jump down to verse 24. Verse 24, what does he mean by make no mention? It says, thou shalt not bow down to their gods. When the Lord is talking about make no mention of other gods, he's talking about how to serve them. It's going to tell you, thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them and quite break down their images. Now, jump to verse 32 and verse 33. The Lord mentions it a 3rd time in a different way. Verse 32, thou shalt make no covenants with them, nor with their gods. They shall not dwell in thy land, lest they make thee sin against me. For if thou serve their gods, it will surely be a snare unto thee. The Lord mentioned he mentioned make no mention of the name of other gods in 3 different ways. He's talking about bowing down and serving them and worshiping them. Let's go back up to verse 13 again. So we're going to read all the scriptures again so it'll stick. Verse 13. And in all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth. Verse 24, thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them and quite break down their images. Verse 32, thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their gods. They shall not dwell in thy land, lest they make thee sin against me. For if thou serve their gods, it will surely be a snare unto thee. So make no mention of other gods is talking about learning how to worship and serve them. Let's go to another precept to help you understand. Go to Joshua chapter 23. And let's read verse 6 and 7. Joshua mentioned that, right? Joshua 23, verse 6 and 7. Yep, here we go. It says, be ye therefore very courageous to keep and to do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, that ye turn not aside therefrom to the right hand or to the left. What it says to do, do it. Verse 7, that ye come not among these nations, these that remain among you, neither make mention of the name of their gods, nor cause to swear by them, neither serve them, nor bow yourselves unto them. We're going to read verse 8. But cleave unto the Lord your God as ye have done unto this day. Now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 13. to get more understanding. What do you mean? Make mention of other gods. Deuteronomy 13, let's read 6 through 10. Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 6, it says, if thy brother, the son of thy mother, or thy son, or thy daughter, or the wife of thy bosom, or thy friend, which is as thy own soul, entice thee secretly, saying, let us go and serve other gods. So you keep seeing over and over again in these precepts, the mentioning of other gods is how to serve them and worship them. Verse 7, namely of the gods, bottom of verse 6, let us go and serve other gods which thou hast not known, thy nor thy fathers, namely of the gods of the people which are round about you, nigh unto thee, or far off from thee, from the one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth. So you might be in America, don't you damn go trying to find out how to worship Buddha way over in China. That's what God's saying. You might be in the land of it. We don't give a damn what's going on in Babylon, how they worship in Baal the dragon. That's what God is telling you. No matter where it is, don't worry about these other gods. Verse 8, thou shalt not consent unto him, nor hearken unto him. Neither shalt thine eye pity him, neither shalt thou spare, neither shalt thou conceal him. Going back to Exodus chapter 23, verse 13. Okay, so I hope you, let me see, I might have one more precept for you. I might have one more precept. Let's see. Okay, I know what that is. No, okay. All right, so we'll leave that. So now we got enough precepts. Now we understand Exodus 23:13. The making mention of the name of other gods is talking about how to serve them and worship them. All right. All right, let's go back now. Exodus 23, verse 14. Exodus 23, verse 14. It says, 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread, which is also Passover, right? Thou shalt eat unleavened bread. Here's a precept for it to show you unleavened bread is Passover. Luke, let's go to the book of Luke. Luke chapter 22, verse 1. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover. Okay, so unleavened bread is Passover. Back in Exodus 23:15, thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month Abib. For in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. Let me pull up a bib for you here real quick. All right. Okay, let's see if it pops up. Okay, there we go. Abib. So that's the first month of the year. None shall appear before me empty, meaning that you had to bring we'll read in Deuteronomy 14, you had to bring the sacrifice or what was required of your 10th to Passover with you for the priest to replenish the storehouses. That's what it means. You couldn't come empty-handed. You had to bring a 10th of your oil, your wine, whatever it might be. You had to bring that with you. Okay. Verse 16. And the feast of harvest, which is also known as Pentecost. Luke 22, verse 1. Uh, verse 16 again. And the feast of harvest, which is Pentecost, first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering. The feast of ingathering is also tabernacles. Okay? So the feast of harvest is also known as Pentecost. It's also known as Feast of Weeks. The Feast of Ingathering is also known as the Feast of Tabernacles, and it's also known as the Feast of Booths. You can go back and watch the class later and get those different names, okay? Verse 17, 3 times in the year all thy males shall appear before the Lord God. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until the morning. The first fruits of thy land thou shalt bring into the house of the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not see the kid in his mother's milk. We read it again. Where we read that? Exodus 22 and verse 30. The Lord is repeating himself again. Verse 20. Exodus 23, verse 20. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. That's speaking of Christ. Verse 22. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice, and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies, and an adversary unto thine adversaries. So now you understand that the same enemies in verse 4 is not the same enemies in verse 22 that the Lord is speaking about. Verse 4, you got to help that enemy. So that's your brother, that's your sister. So you still got to be merciful to them. But these enemies in verse 22, the Lord said he'll deal with them. He'll destroy them for you. So that's not the same people in verse 4 that the Lord is telling us to help. Right? Verse 23, for my angel shall go before thee and bring thee in unto the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. Thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them and quite break down their images. And ye shall serve the Lord your God, and he shall bless thy bread and thy water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of thee. There shall nothing cast their young, nor be barren in thy land. The number of thy days I will fulfill. I will send my fear before thee, and will destroy all the people to whom thou shalt come. And I will make all thine enemies turn their backs unto thee. And I will send hornets before thee, which shall drive out the Hivite and the Canaanite and the Hittite from before thee. I will not drive them out from before thee in 1 year, lest the land become desolate, and the beasts of the field multiply against thee. By little and little I will drive them out from before thee, until thou be increased and inherit the land. And I will set thy bounds from the Red Sea. Listen to how big Israel is supposed to be. You see it now, it's a little slither on a map. Listen, look how big it's supposed to be. Verse 31, and I will set thy bounds from the Red Sea, even unto the sea of the Philistines, and from the desert unto the river. That's going into talking about the river Euphrates. For I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and thou shalt drive them out before thee. So it went from the Red Sea, and it was further than that. It also went into the Egypt too. You read other scriptures all the way out to the river Euphrates, way out, way over by Babylon. So that's encompassing Iraq, Iran, all of that was supposed to be, or certain parts of it, and we're supposed to fill all of it up. One day, verse 32, thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their gods. They shall not dwell in thy land, lest they make thee sin against me. For if thou serve their gods, It will surely be a snare unto thee. Chapter 24. And he said unto Moses, come unto the Lord, thou and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off. And Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come nigh, neither shall the people go up with him. And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord, and all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord hath said, we will do. That's us. That was us making a verbal agreement with the Lord. So all the hell we catching today as a people, we have no excuse for it. It is all our fault. Although we hate it, the Lord hates it for us to go through it. But all of the evil we catching is because we agreed to do all the words that the Lord has spoken when we was in the wilderness. We are our ancestors back on the earth again. Verse 4, and Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, and rose up early in the morning and built an altar under the hill, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. This is going to tie in later on, the book of Hebrews and sacrificing. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people. So now you understand, verse 7 let you know it was more than 10 commandments that Moses was getting up on the hill, up on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. I'll read it again, verse 7. He took the book of the covenant, wrote a whole book of what is to be done on our behalf with God, and read in the audience of the people. And they said, all that the Lord hath said, we will do. Will we do and be obedient? We're going to do it and be obedient. That's why we can't do nothing but just pray. That's all we can do is pray. The Lord have mercy on us and return to redeem us from those that hate us. And they said, all that the Lord hath said will we do and be obedient. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words. Boy, you read that out loud, man, and you just understand the hell we catching today here in Babylon the Great. It makes that you be thinking, man, we messed up, man. The Lord was not playing with us. When them words came out of our mouth, he etched them in heaven. And God is not a man that he should lie. So when he said all of this was going to come back on you, we had no idea. We had no idea the extent of it. Okay, let me move on. I be reading that stuff, man. I be looking out into society today, man. It make you mourn. Let me tell you that, man. It makes you mourn. Moving on, Exodus chapter 24, verse 9. Then went up Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone. Sapphire is blue, right? It's the hottest part of a flame. Let's see if we can get that. Yeah, let's see what I got here. All right, So this is what they saw. Let me see. I don't know, eating my hands. Hold on, y'all. Get some visuals. Let's see. Is it gonna allow me to post it? No. It ain't gonna allow it. Okay. Alright, so it won't allow me to do that on Facebook here. Alright, so sapphire stone. I just post this. Might pop it up. Alright, so sapphire stone, the blue flame. It's the hottest part of a flame, okay? Back in verse 10, and they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet as it were a paved work of a sapphire stone, and as it were the body of heaven in his clearness. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand also, laid his hand. Also they saw God and did eat and drink. So remember I mentioned Christ earlier back in about the angel going before, right? Precept to this to show you that this verse 10 and 11 is talking about Christ that they saw. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 9, because we all know there's other precepts that says there is no man that has saw God at any time, things of that nature, right? So how did they see God in the wilderness and did eat and drink? Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. It says, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. I'll read verse 7 too. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. So when we go back to Exodus chapter 24, verse 10 and 5, we understand that this is talking about Christ, who was called the mighty God, the everlasting Father. And when we read 1 Corinthians chapter 10, let's go to that. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, to get some more proof that that was Christ that we was talking to in the wilderness instead, in place of God. It was God speaking, and then we had Christ speaking, and he was giving us the word in the wilderness. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 1. Moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud. The Corinthians are Israelites. And all passed through the Red Sea. Because the Corinthians were not even a power on the earth. The Greeks weren't a power on the earth at that time. So Paul's letting you know the Corinthians he's speaking to in Corinth are actually Israelites. Verse 2, and we're all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. So now we understand who we dealt with in the wilderness. It was Christ, all right, on behalf of the Most High. Okay, back in Exodus chapter 24, and we're going to read verse 10 and 11 again. And they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet as it were a paved work of a sapphire stone, and as it were the body of heaven in his clearness. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand. Also they saw God, and did eat and drink. Verse 12, and the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount, and be there, and I will give thee tables of stone, and a law and commandments, which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. Highlight that, because they let you know that the laws, statutes, and commandments is all one and the same. Because Christianity tries to separate the law from commandments. No, law and commandments is one and the same, all right? Proof of that, Proverbs chapter 6, verse 23. It's simple, but these are things that you build your faith on. You tear down imaginations in the minds of our people with the word of God, which is true. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 23. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life. Commandments and law, lamp, light, one and the same. Okay? Back in Exodus chapter 24 now, we read verse 13. And Moses rose up and his minister Joshua, and Moses went up into the mount of God. He said unto the elders, tarry ye here for us, until we come again unto you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man have any matters to do, let him come unto them. And Moses went up into the mount, and a cloud covered the mount. And the glory of the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the seventh day he called unto Moses out of the midst of the cloud. And the sight of the glory of the Lord was like devouring fire on the top of the mount in the eyes of the children of Israel. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud and gat him up into the mount. And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. Now check this out. Reading this, if you've been listening, actively listening, and just not sitting there, you understand that Moses, before he even went up into the mount, in verse 7, it says, and he took the book of the covenant. Moses already had a book written before he even went up into the mount for 40 days and 40 nights. He had already wrote down so much that it was already a book. So when he went up there for 40 days and 40 nights, he came down with even more books of writings. Okay? It wasn't just 10 commandments for 40 days. He got more. So it's just something to pay attention to if you're actively listening. All right, last chapter here, verse 25. Really ain't much. This is talking about the tabernacle and things that go into the tabernacle. So we'll go through these here for this chapter fairly quick, all right? Exodus chapter 25. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, that they bring me an offering of every man that giveth it willingly with his heart. Ye shall take my offering. That's what the Lord wants. The Lord wants a willing heart to give of your substance, not a grudgingly giving or out of necessity or because the law says so. You want a willing heart because you know that your giving is going to benefit someone else that is in need, or the house of God, whatever it may need to be furnished. The lights being on, the roof being fixed, the floors, the tables, the leadership to travel, whatever it might be, have a willing heart. when it comes to giving. Verse 3, and it says, and this is the offering which ye shall take of them, gold and silver and brass. Thank God that he ain't requiring gold, silver, and brass no more, because half of us wouldn't have nothing to give. Can I get an amen? I know I wouldn't have nothing to give. I would have to, I would, in the Old Testament here, I would already be living in the new covenant of my body being a living sacrifice, because I wouldn't have nothing to give. Ain't got no gold, ain't got no silver, ain't got no brass. Lord, I sacrifice my body holy and acceptable unto you in the wilderness, living the new covenant already. Moses be like, what the hell? We don't want your, we need some gold and brass. Moses, I ain't got nothing to give but my body as a living sacrifice. All right, back to the scripts here. Verse 3, and this is the offering which ye shall take of them, gold and silver and brass. Verse 4, and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair and ram skins dyed red and badger's skin and shittim wood. In verse 5, you know that badger skin is going into an animal with paws, right? So this is for all the brothers that be caught up on. I can't use a brush because it got boar bristles in it, and I can't touch anything that is defiled, nor can it touch my body. You know, we've had people here in Miami fall out the truth because they could not get over the understanding that when it talks about not touching things that are defiled, like a carcass of a pig or a carcass of a moose or a carcass of a ferret, or touching animals like that, is going into sacrifice. It's not talking about and eating those things. It ain't talking about you brushing your hair and things of that nature. How do we know this? Because the Lord told the children of Israel to bring badger skin, an animal with a paw, to make the Lord's tabernacle in the wilderness. He made us touch it to build the thing. So when it comes to those things of boar bristles and things of that nature, for you brothers that be, sisters be bugged out your mind, that's talking about eating those things and touching those things where you couldn't go into the temple to sacrifice. Not to brush your hair. Brush your hair, you bum brothers. All right, moving on. Verse 5 again, and ram skin dyed red, and badger skin, and shittim wood, oil for the light, spices for anointing, and sweet incense, onyx stones and stones to be set in the ephod and in the breastplate. And let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them, according to all that I show thee. I say show. I don't be caught up in that shoe. Brothers be trying to be extra, not adding unto the word. It's old English, brothers. Say show, damn it. What the hell shoe means? Okay, back to it. Verse 9, according to all that I show thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all the instruments thereof, even so shall ye make it. And they shall make an ark of shittim wood, 2 cubits, and all half shall, and the half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. All right, cubit, from what we know, is 18 inches or so. It differs depending on the time of the size of man. When we was bigger, the cubit was bigger. We got smaller, the cubit got smaller. Verse 11, and thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, within and without shalt thou overlay it, and shalt make upon it a crown of gold upon it, round about it. And thou shalt cast 4 rings of gold forward, and put them in the 4 corners thereof. And 2 rings shall be in the one side of it, and 2 rings in the other side of it. It's talking about the ark. And thou shalt make staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put the staves into the rings by the sides of the ark, that the ark may be borne with them. The staves shall be in the rings of the ark, they shall not be taken from it. And thou shalt put it into the ark, the testimony which I shall give thee. And thou shalt make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof. And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold. Of beaten work shalt thou make them in the 2 ends of the mercy seat. And make 1 cherub on the one end. A Baruch, find me a picture of an all gold ark of the covenant. Verse 20, and the cherubim shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and their faces shall look one to another toward the mercy seat, shall the faces of the cherubim be. And thou shalt put the mercy seat above upon the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee. And there I will meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubims which are upon the ark of the testimony, of all the things which I will give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel. Thou shalt also make a table of shittim wood. 2 cubits shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold. I'm gonna start with, and let me see, and make thereunto a crown of gold round about it. So the table was pure gold, and the crown's talking about the molding that's going around it. Okay, that's the crown molding that some people got up in their houses. As y'all see, I ain't got none. Well, I ain't got no crown molding in this place. Got a little brick wall back there, but no crown molding. But it's talking about crown molding around the table. And I want you to get this in your head and understand. Yeah, we got that plaster and brick and drywall and all of that stuff right now. But in our kingdom, when we were there and when we go back to it, it's going to be full of things that are made of pure gold. Y'all hear me? Pure gold. A lot of times we watch these old Asian, these Chinese movies and these old, what you call those? These old Dark Ages movies where they got Esau up there. And you see the royalty and the gold that is surrounding, especially in these Chinese movies, these Moabite movies. They do a real good job of bringing to remembrance their culture as a people, the order of the kings and the queens and the priests and the counselors to the king, and the royal garments. They do a good job of bringing to remembrance of that to their people, right? Okay. But that's how we lived. I know it'd be hard to I like watching those movies because it remind me I'm replacing the people I see with us, because that's how we used to live as a people, with the order and the maids and the maidens and the maid servants and the gold and the garments and the order. All of that stuff is how we used to live. And you can see it with this, how the Lord is describing how he wants the tabernacle set up. Everything is overlaid with pure gold. And it was clean. It wasn't dusty. It wasn't no fingerprints in it. It was pure gold. It was clean. It was royal. And we're going to go back to that. We just got to endure it. All right. Picking back up here in verse 26. And thou shalt make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings in the corners that are on the corner, on the feet thereof. Over against the border shall the rings be for places of the staves to bear the table. And thou shalt make the staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold, that the table may be borne with them. And thou shalt make the dishes thereof, and spoons thereof, and covers thereof, and bowls thereof, to cover withal. Of pure gold shalt thou make them. And thou shalt set upon the table showbread before me always. And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold. This is the menorah. Of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops, and his flowers shall be of the same. And 6 branches shall come. Pull up the menorah, Baruch. And 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it. 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. So there is no 10 candle menorahs. That's made up. That is a Jewish fable. That is an Amalekite falsehood. That is not of God. You see, you got 7 branches, 1 in the middle and 3 that came out on each side. Verse 33, 3 bowls made like unto almonds, which a knot and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, with a knot and a flower. So in the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick, and in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls, made like unto almonds, with their knops and their flowers. And there shall be a knot under 2 branches of the same, and a knot under 2 branches of the same, and a knot under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick. Right? Their knops and their branches shall be of the same. All it shall be one beaten work of pure gold. And thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. So this is how you let you know it wasn't small, it was big, because it had to light up a whole section of the tabernacle. So it wasn't small, it wasn't the little things we got, it was big, that it lit up the whole area, the whole room. Read it again, verse 37. And thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. And the tongs thereof, and the snuff dishes thereof, shall be of pure gold, of a talent of pure gold shall he make it with all these vessels. And look that thou make them after their pattern, which was showed thee in the mount. All right, so we are going to end it there today. IUIC 4 chapters, Exodus 22 through 25. I pray you got some understanding today. If you have more detailed questions, as I mentioned at the beginning of class, write us a message on IUIC Classrooms, and we captains will go back and answer it to the best of our ability with links and things and scriptures that we can provide for you, okay? All right, so tomorrow, tune in again. We will be back same time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A different officer or a captain will be on to help you understand the reading, okay? So with that, Israel, Most High in Christ bless to you all. Captain Zakar, I'm back. The Rona tried to take me out, but the Lord was with me, and he forgave me for my sins. All right, so Lord's will, tomorrow, Four Corners will be on. Lord's will. If not, we'll pick it up again some other time. Y'all send up prayers for Captain Mattathias and Captain Severus, who are working their way out of the last effects of the sickness. Okay? All right, Israel. So with that, I've been Captain Zakar. I say, shalom.